on this episode of the Jeff Does Vegas podcast.
I don't think I would have gotten the opportunities as a regular working actor. It's because of doing Trump and having done him so long and having some moderate success doing the character and some TV and film work.
In Spanish, its name means the Meadows. You might know it as the entertainment capital of the world, Lost Wages, or simply Sin City. Of course, I'm talking about fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. On average, 42 million people visit Las Vegas every year, and I'm one of them. I love this city. The sights, the sounds, the shows, the people, the history. I want to share all of it with you. Taking you to the world-famous Vegas Strip and beyond, my name is Jeff, and this is the Jeff Does Vegas podcast. Hey there, and welcome to episode number 64 of the Jeff Does Vegas podcast. Thanks once again for joining me on this podcast journey to my favorite city in the world, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Before we get into this episode of the podcast, I want to thank my guests from the last episode, all the way from the Emerald Isle. They are the house band at Ree-Raw Irish Pub in the Shops at Mandalay Bay. Dave Rooney and Dave Brown, aka the Black Donnellys. We chatted about the band's origins, the celebs they've had a chance to play with in Las Vegas, their various Guinness World Records, and their new documentary, An Irish Story, This Is My Home. If you haven't had a chance to listen as of yet, jump into the archives wherever you get your podcasts and search out episode number 63, my special guests, the Black Donnellys, or head to the website at jeffdoesvegas.com. All right, on to the show. It was a little over a year ago that Vegas entertainer and actor John D. Domenico, who's regarded as the best Donald Trump impersonator in the world, invited me to his home for a conversation for the podcast. We talked about how and when he started impersonating Donald Trump, the stage show he was working in on the Vegas Strip at the time, and his numerous appearances on Conan O'Brien and Fox News, where he'd had the opportunity to meet members of Trump's staff. During the course of that part of our chat, John dropped this little gem into the conversation.
And Trump knew who I was before. There's this weird story where he thought I died. It's kind of complicated. But Kellyanne, long story.
Proving that I'm clearly not the journalist I thought I was, I just moved right along and didn't bother asking the follow-up question. So, better late than never, I asked John to jump back on the podcast with me so I could get the full story on how, why, and when the President of the United States thought he was dead. We also got caught up on some of the great work John's been doing over the course of the last year, including a ton of voiceover work as Donald Trump, getting to meet and do Trump for the legendary Alec Baldwin, his dive into the world of Cameo, and how he's been keeping busy during the COVID-19 shutdown in Las Vegas. Please enjoy my conversation with John D. Domenico.
Okay, so I was one of the first people doing Trump, other than first it was Phil Hartman, then it was Daryl Hammond. Okay, I was one of the few people outside of them doing it that was bookable, and I was in New York. So what had happened was in 2006, when I started, right around the time I'd gotten the wig and the makeup and I was doing it and all that stuff, I got called by a PR firm. This was for The Apprentice. And it was for a cross promotion between The Apprentice and Embassy Suites. They were designing the new uniforms. Trump was unavailable. And it was like their episode that night, like, we need Trump. And Trump's unavailable. What's the next best thing? Well, there's this guy who's an impersonator and he can do it. So they found me and they were like, God, you're the only person we can do this. And I had the tie and the wig and the whole, as Guy Fieri would say, the whole giddy up. So I got hired and I was on Fox and Friends in 2006. Other than those two, Phil Hartman and Daryl Hammond, I'm the first person ever to appear as Trump on national television. And on Fox, which ironically I ended up, being on a lot more. And to do that, I had to be approved. I had to be approved by Trump. by the Trump organization. And I'm assuming Trump because I'm playing him. So from 2006 on, he knew I was who I was. And I would pop up at events and I would, that's when things were building and I was getting photos here and there. But he was aware of me simply because I worked for him. And initially, going back to the very first thing I ever did for him was the voice of him at the Trump Taj Mahal for the boardroom game. So he probably may have heard my name and heard my voice, and that was it. But when he saw me on TV on Fox, that made it like, this guy's a real person and I know who he is. And I have a distinct name. I'm not like John Smith. So years later, when I moved here 9 years ago, before I moved, a friend of mine, Doug Nervick, who's a great improv guy, amazing musician, tall, kind of fair skinned naturally like Trump. I said to him, and he could easily do it because we would call each other and go, hello, Mr. Trump. Hello, Mr. Trump. How are you? Fantastic. And I said to him, listen, we should go to Bob Kelly, who made all my wigs. I said, we should go to Bob Kelly off of Times Square and get you a wig. Because that's a big investment. Doug, I will turn over every, job every Trump job, because it's not worth it for me for $800, $1,200, $1,500 to fly back to New York. It's just not worth it. But I said, but I can turn the job over to you and keep the work in the family. I always like to help out friends. We're all tight community, actors and performers. So he bought it, got him a job right out of the gate. Got him another job. He was rolling with it. People were loving his Trump. And then very sadly, he had a stroke and he passed away. And it was heartbreaking for me because I love this guy. And right around that time, the Celebrity Apprentice, it was like the Joan Rivers thing. They wanted a celebrity. They wanted a Joan Rivers impersonator and a Donald Trump impersonator. So they were under the impression they were calling me, but I was already here. Mm-hmm. So in the boardroom, you see Joan Rivers say, we tried to call the Trump impersonator, but he died. And he says, oh, I really like that guy. That's a shame that he died. And he was talking about me.
Oh, no.
Because Doug hadn't done anything really. He'd just done a couple of corporate gigs, but he hadn't done anything publicly. I was the only one who had been photographed and Getty Images and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they reached out to the Trump in New York. That was Doug, because people had passed. I had made sure anything in New York went to Doug, and then he had passed away. And that's the sad story. But what would happen was when that episode aired and people from the New York area knew he knew who I was, when they said, oh, that he died. I like that guy. Well, people called me like, what? I was like, I had to explain to them what happened.
Oh my God. So just really, it was just, it just kind of went from him in a very weird direction very quickly.
Very weird direction. But then when I resurfaced on Tom Shalhoub, on Red Eye and Fox and Friends, and I was running into a lot of his, like Kellyanne, they knew again. And I had gotten back channeled when he had won. I was getting back channels on a bunch of stuff, but when he had won, I got a back channel. And they were talking about having me at the correspondence dinner. And that happened. That was like a real thing. And we were going back and forth and setting up the date. And I was going to be at the White House table and all this kind of stuff. And then he said he wasn't going. And then the staff wasn't allowed to go. And they said, we can still get you a ticket. I'm like, what? I'm not flying across country to go to an event where I know absolutely no one. Mm-hmm. And I got to put myself up, fly myself there. And I was like, thank you, but no thank you. Because, me out of makeup doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. You know,
unless I'm with a bunch of people. So it was a very interesting. And then that person left the White House. So,
you mentioned these back channels, and this is such a weird, do you ever kind of just sit there and go, what is happening with my life? Like, how did this, I mean, you know, in the last episode, we talked about you developing the character and why you went with it and everything like that. But I mean, with what's been going on over the last few years with all of this, and like I say, you talk about these back channels and getting this, like I say, do you ever just kind of go, what is with my life?
You know, all the time. And the amazing people I got to meet. And one of the people that I was really excited about meeting was through a friend, called me and said, "Hey, do you know the TV show Transparent?" And I may have told you the story, but he said, "Do you know the TV show Transparent?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. I'm fascinated with showrunners, fascinated." And I read about them all the time. And he said, "Do you know Jill Soloway?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He said, "Okay, she wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Jill Soloway wants to talk to me?" "Yeah, she has a concept for a show that she's working on." And it was like a Skype call, and she had her camera off. I said, "Do you mind?" So I just want to make sure it's really you. And it was really her. And we discussed the project and we started working on it. And then Jeffrey Tambor had his issue on Transparent. So I've got, I can talk about this now because it's not happening. And this is the first time I've talked about it anywhere. But I was working on a pilot with Robert Smigel, and we shot in December, and that fell apart for a myriad of reasons. But I mean, I would never have worked with him otherwise. And he's like, was the head writer for SNL. So it's like all these SNL things have been happening, which I know you're going to ask me about later, that other guy. So it's been, I don't think I would have gotten the opportunities as a regular working actor. It's because of doing Trump and having done him so long and having some moderate success doing the character and some TV and film work. And, and and you know me, I'm kind of a hustler. I got to keep working. I just have to work and work and work and work. And, sometimes things hit, sometimes they don't. The extremely negative thing hit and got me a lot of traction. You put on one video, it gets like 500,000 views. You put on another one, it gets 24,000. You're thinking, what did I do today? What happened here? So then you're like, okay, back to the drawing board.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about this in our last interview. You have a ton of characters in your repertoire. I mean, you do what, 25, 30 different characters, right?
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that right now, Trump is taking up basically all of your time.
He's taking up probably 95% of the time. Like tomorrow, I'm Guy Fieri on a Zoom call. Last week, I was Dr. Evil. Before that, I was Austin Powers. I have another thing to do as Austin. Two things to do as Austin, and two things to do as Dr. Evil. I did a Dr. Phil thing recently. So they're still there, but nowhere near. I mean, I have 18 cameos to shoot today. And on the run up to Mother's Day, it was like 25. And it was just like, wow, this is amazing. And that's that's the main thing that's really keeping me alive right now are these cameos. And they're, like I said, 99. They're about 99% Trump. But every work overall is probably 95% Trump.
You mentioned Cameo, and this is something that I did want to talk to you about. This Cameo is something that's really only, you mentioned Cameo there, and this is something that I did want to talk to you about. Cameo is something that's really only started to blow up in the last year and a half or so?
Yeah, it's funny. It's been around for a while, and I had Jeff Savilico and Scott Bloom, who are friends of mine. They were like, you got to get on this. You got to get on this. But my feeling was like, I'm not a D-list, C-list, B-list celebrity. I'm not Michael Rappaport. I'm not Mike Tyson. I'm not Debbie Gibson. Like, no one knows John D. Domenico. And they were really, no, get on there. And I went on, and there was like one other Trump impersonator who was not in makeup. And, he was fine. He was there. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. I might as well do it right. I will do it in full makeup. I will do it on my press room set. So I started shooting them in October, the last week of October. And, it worked out great. I had an account executive who gave me a little more time and we could set them up. And then I went on the road and I would do them from my hotel room. And then I'd be back home and do them on the set. And it was just kind of moving along. And then it was really taking off around Christmas, and January was surprisingly solid. And with the pandemic, with like a gift, it's perfect. You don't have to pick it up. It doesn't have to be delivered. It doesn't have to be dropped off. They don't have to touch it, and it lasts forever. And it's totally personalized to them. And I go over the top. Most I've watched a lot of cameos, but I'll do like 2.5 minutes because there's so much Trump material. You know what I mean? Can you believe this? Can you believe this? Because I usually open up with, "It's me, greatest president in the history of presidents, other than the late, great Abe Lincoln, who really, Sally, wasn't that great. Wasn't that great? What do you have to deal with? Teeny weeny Civil War. What do I get? The Kung Flu from Guangzhou, China." And you know what I learned about this company? This company is a great company. And what this really is it's a technology company. And technology companies are into metrics. They like metrics. This is no fly-by-night company. They're a huge tech company. And the CEOs, there's two co-CEOs. They're all tech guys, and you can see how they can really scale this and how this works and how everything's done and how your algorithm has moved up from people giving you reviews and people just checking out your page. It's really amazing. And I've brought on a bunch of people: Christina Shaw, Robert Nash, just a ton of people, and because I think it's great, and because of the shelter in place, a lot of people have jumped on. So I have more competition now. But that's okay. It's okay because I'll win. So much money.
I do want to talk about some of the current stuff and things that you're working on. Back in February, speaking of Saturday Night Live and that other guy. February feels like it was forever ago.
Yeah, it really feels like it was like 2 years ago.
Because when I was looking this up, I thought, I think it was this year, but I want to be sure.
Yeah.
Back in February, you got to do Trump for Alec Baldwin.
Well, yeah, this is the coolest story. I was very, it was a Democratic state thing for Democrats of California. It was in Cupertino. I'd gotten a call and said, "Hi, we found you online. We have Alec Baldwin at an event. He is contractually not allowed to do Trump outside of SNL." And I was like, "Well, that's good for me." And they said, "We'd love for you to open for him." And I said, "Oh my God, that would be incredible." And I had said to Michelle, I said, if I can just get a photo with this guy, it would be great. Because I know in these events, it's hard. People come in, they do the thing, they're out, especially someone like him. So, I got to the hotel. Well, I was talking in advance, obviously putting the material together. I got word back from them that he'd watched some of my stuff and he loved it, which was really nice. And then that day, they had said, "Oh, he's really excited to meet you." I'm like, "Wow, that's incredible." So I'm only supposed to do 12 minutes. I get up, I do my 12 minutes, and it was going to be a handoff. I was going to, "Alec, the stage is yours. You're a terrible person," and then leave the stage. And then as he's walking up the stage, he looks at me and goes, "You're good. You're good." I go, "Thank you. Thank you so much. The stage is yours." He goes, "Oh, no. He goes, "You're not going anywhere." I go, and I'm in character, but I'm kind of thrown because we talked about this. And this event was for a specific assemblyman in California. And Alec goes, no. Can we get some chairs up here? Can we get some chairs up here? And if you saw the photos, he says, "I want to interview this guy." Because, my Trump is universally panned as the worst, right? Am I right? And he says that to me. I'm like, "No, well, it's not that bad." And I said it as Trump. "Well, it's not that bad." So then he said, "But this guy just did 12 minutes. He killed it." He goes, "I do Trump every other week for 4 to 5 minutes. This guy just did 12 minutes and he killed, and he was dead on. So give him a nice hand." And then he interviewed me and how he got started in Trump and this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And then that was like another 7, 8 minutes. And then I was out, and then we took some photos together and we talked a little bit, and then he was off. So between him, Robert Smigel. I felt like I'm getting closer to Saturday Night Live. I'm closer, And then last Saturday night when he said for the last time from my apartment.
And I mean, again, another one of those just incredible opportunities that is just come up for you.
Yeah, and to be sitting right next to him on stage, and he's asking me questions about how I got started and how I cracked the voice. And I'm sitting there like, dude, you were in Hunt for Red October. You know what I mean? And it was just like, it was weird that he was right there.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. So cool. Yeah. You also, through the run up here with the presidential election coming up, you started working on a Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Was Bernie something that you had done for a while, or was Bernie something that you had just kind of?
Well, Bernie was one of those things that's in your head. If you come from like the Northeast and you lived in New York, there's that kind of that way of talking. Mm-hmm. That kind, and it doesn't matter if it's Jewish, but with the the Yiddish overtones and things like that, or if it's Regis Philbin. There's this thing from Brooklyn and Queens where they do that thing where they talk like this. A little bit of New York. Obviously, Bernie has more New York, but he was such a great character. And I had waited and waited and waited. And I probably should have jumped on him earlier. But as we were going in and we were seeing like probably going to be him or Biden or, and the field was still pretty big at that point. But dropped out. And people said to me, the consolation is he's not going anywhere. But that's true, but it's in the run up to election, they're not focusing on other people. They're just looking at the main two people. And then with the pandemic, nobody's out and about. Mm-hmm. No one's giving, other than, Trump, no one's giving press conference. Biden's in his basement, essentially.
Right.
And his voice is, I can't figure out a way into his voice.
Yeah.
He has no phrases that he uses consistently.
Something that was kind of neat to see on social media, following you on Facebook and Twitter and such, you were actually putting out videos almost testing the character.
Yeah.
Is that something that you normally do when you're developing a character, or was that something different just for Bernie?
I was new with Bernie because I had the opportunity to do it on social media, and I wanted to get other people's opinion. I know what I sound like. People say to me sometimes, you have to slow down as Trump. It's like, I'm fully aware, but I'm doing comedy. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a documentary. There's timing involved here, and I have to speed it up, which always cracks me up. But with Bernie, I wanted to hear what people were thinking with it. And a lot of people just said, you have to lower your voice. You got to remember to be lower when you do Bernie Sanders, and again, they were saying I was talking too fast, but that's always that's a decision you make. But it was probably the one thing I heard the most, that I had to lower my voice. So I had to push my voice deeper down my throat so I could, get that sound that he has. Well, it's almost a little guttural, but it's not. It's just the placement of his voice. So it's like you're just fine tuning things like that.
It is so much fun to listen to you do these voices. I'm not going to lie. The saddest part about it, though, was you never got your Trump Sanders debate.
Yeah, and I was starting to kind of flesh it out, and and there's a great. I have access to an amazing, not my own green screen, but a really incredible affiliate green screen here. And I was going to do it, but it's one of these things where if it's there's so many other things that are, and things are happening so fast that, I just got to focus on the next thing over these next few weeks and next few months.
The other thing that really kind of blew up for you, and this was one that was fun to wake up to the one day in your social media post on it, was one of your Trump clips got picked up by the Howard Stern show.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Do you have any idea where that came from or how he got his hands on that or? No,
I really don't know. I don't know. And I'm really happy. The funny thing is about the Howard Stern show is there have been multiple times over the last few years where people have messaged me and said, hey, you were great on the Howard Stern show today. And I was like, wasn't me. I have a pretty good idea who it was. But it wasn't me, because I have a very specific way of doing my Trump. And there are certain people who shall remain nameless who have utilized the way I do it. So anyway, so usually I try to find out who that was, and I let the person know, like, that was this guy or that was that guy. But that particular morning, I woke up and I was getting multiple messages like, "Dude, you're on that. You were great on the Howard Stern show. You were great on the Howard Stern show." And I'm like, I was literally typing someone back to say, "I don't think that was me." And then somebody else messaged, "They're playing your negative bit." I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. And it's amazing, the power of Howard Stern. How many people listen to that guy? The volume of text and Facebook messages was amazing. To have that kind of reach is so incredible. And I think it was the same day or the day after, then Piers Morgan played it. And I have friends in the UK and relatives. My sister's been over there for 40 years. So then that came up and I was like, holy cow, this is really taking off.
That's so bizarre, but I mean, good bizarre.
Oh, so great. And I would love to be on Stern regularly if I could get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's the having done morning radio for a very brief while, I can tell you it's no fun. But for Stern money, I think I could do it.
Oh yeah. What's he get? Like $55 million a year or something?
Something ridiculous like that.
Number.
Yeah, and he's in on shares on Sirius XM and everything too. And yeah, like, oh God. Yeah, I could do it for that money. I think I'd be okay with it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the voiceover work that you've got as Trump as of late. Saw you posted some information on your Facebook about a cartoon that you're signed on for, the Fabulous Freak Brothers.
It was the Fabulous Freak Brothers, and that's their real name. That's a 70s comics, part of like the Crumb era of comics, kind of a gritty kind of thing, not dirty, but like the whole look was gritty and very dense. Like the illustrations are very, very dense. And these were 3 hippies from that period. And, you know, they were very irreverent, and they've basically they've been asleep all this time, and they've been rehatched in, you know, this point in history. And who's the first person they run into? President Trump. So, you know, when you do animation, it's pretty common knowledge that you're not in the studio with the other actors. So I didn't get to meet Pete Davidson. I didn't get to meet John Goodman. I didn't get to meet Tiffany Haddish. And I'm missing one other. Oh, Woody Harrelson. He's got this great he plays the old Texas guy, and he's really got the voice down great. He said, "Yes, sir. We got the whistle. You know, when people talk with a whistle. Yeah, we want some of that Kentucky Fried Chicken." You know, so it was really cool. And it was fun to watch, and it's beautiful animation.
It was a fun clip to watch. It was really interesting to watch.
It was kind of neat, and you know, I loved it. But we changed it. I had actually done all the recording like in January, and they said, "Hey, this is coming out, but we need to update it because of COVID-19." So we added some of the COVID lines and made minor changes to the script.
A couple of other voiceover projects that you've done as Trump. You were the voice of Donald Trump in the audiobook, The Method to the Madness, a nonfiction book from Alan Salkin and Aaron Short.
Yeah. Great book, by the way. It's a nonpartisan book. It's all people who are personal friends. There's no unnamed sources. It's a great book.
And then something else that you did that you shared on your Facebook page and on your social media was a video that I really enjoyed called The Trump Missing Tapes.
Yeah.
And the way it was written and the way it was set up, it was written as if it was a speech from Donald Trump and kind of the polar opposite of the speeches that we've been getting from Donald Trump.
Right. Well, you know, ironically, since he's become president, I've been getting messages forever, either on YouTube or through Instagram, any of these platforms, where they say, "We wish you were president. I wish the president could be as eloquent as you. Even in the extremely negative video where I said the negativity spectrum, people are like, well, he would never say that. I'm like, it was just how many people have said, I wish you could be Trump. I wish you were the president. Could you do a Dave switch? Could you do this? Could you say something nice as Trump? Could you say something empathetic as Trump? Could you say something supportive as Trump? And there were so many of them. I thought, okay, let me take a crack at this and putting something together. And then a friend of mine, Jay Ferguson, who I worked with on a project in Canada, series, he said, we're actually working on something like this too. Can I give you the script? And he gave me the script, and I'm like, this is pretty much letter perfect. I can't improve on this. I said, mine is just pieces. And he said, do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. So I shot it. It went back to them and their production company, and they did that look, kind of that, released, missing tapes, got out kind of thing.
Between doing the audiobook and the Trump missing tapes, is it a bit of a stretch for you or a little more difficult for you to do Trump in a serious manner? I mean, I've seen your act umpteen dozen times and seeing what you post on social media and such. It's satire, it's comedy. So is it a bit more of a challenge for you to do Donald Trump in a serious way?
Yeah, it's a little. Well, not that it's much bigger now, but it's a little more. Yeah, you know what it is? It's going back to what people said about me doing it faster when I'm doing comedy. It's the authentic. I have to do authentic Trump. So it's got to be less comedic, and it's got to be what he said in this line from the book. So it's got to be, I'm $900 million in debt. I've lost 3 casinos, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out. It's going to, whatever that line was. And there were a lot. I mean, this is a big book. And coincidentally, I just finished working on a documentary called American Journey about Trump. And they needed some very important key lines throughout this whole thing. So I recorded all of those. That was just earlier today's Tuesday, so it was over the weekend. I got that out to those guys. So it's very important. And then they sent me the footage of where it was being put in, because the way the documentary is shot is you're seeing a lot of him over the shoulder or on the sides, and the actor that they had hired is the right height, the right build, but he's not an impersonator. So it's going to be like the heads turn and you'll hear the voice kind of thing.
That's so cool. And as I say, I mean, it's got to be interesting for you as a performer and as an actor to be able to play the role or play the part from a different side of things.
Yeah. And with him, there are so many Trumps to begin with. You listen to the Trump on Howard Stern. That's not the Trump. And I'm not talking content, talking about women and this, that, but there's this kind of at, someone's house talking to somebody in low tones kind of thing. And, Howard, well, this is that thing. And then there's the interview that he does with someone he likes, like Sean Hannity. That's a different Trump. Then he does an interview with Katie Tur from NBC, who he doesn't really like, but he kind of finds attractive. So he wants to demean her. So then that's a totally different style. Then there's the Trump on stage. And there's all of these different facets to his not just his personality. Everybody has a lot of but his speaking style changes. And for the documentary, when I had to go back to him and when he was 30, he spoke totally differently. Totally. If you go back to that Rona Barrett interview when he was 30 years old, he talked very haltingly. And I'll tell you, Rona, I don't really know if I'd want to be the president because it seems like it's very tough, and I really wouldn't want to do that. And it's like, to hear the evolution of this guy, because most people speak the same from the time they're in their 30s up through to the time they pass away. People's lexicon doesn't change that much. Their vocal style, even if you watch, he keeps his mouth really, really closed. And I watched quite a few things from the time he was 30, 32, 33, 35, because I had to go through sections of his life because this documentary, and I had to get these things exact because they're not going to match up. You know what I mean? Like talking like this now is not going to work for a 30-year-old Trump. You know, the voice it's drier, it's more crackly. So it's very interesting to see that and to see his lexicon over time diminish. He had a much bigger vocabulary at one point. It is much smaller now. It is much smaller, and the way he speaks and the actual vocal production it's different. It's different. So to do it, it's great for me because it helps everything I do structurally to have these different Trump era voices and the different voices themselves that he uses for all the different ways that he speaks.
This is such cool behind the curtain stuff. I love it. And I think, I mean, we talked about it during our last conversation. I don't think people realize how much work you put into developing these characters that you perform. I mean, I think people, as you said last time, people just think you just show up dressed as Donald Trump and ta-da, that's it. But that is not it at all.
No, it's a lot of, it's work. I mean, it's work. I take this very, very seriously. And, and I get up and I think I told you this. I mean, every day I'm up like first thing and I have to go through the news. I have to know what's going on. I do radio interviews as Trump and they're comedy bits. But, if someone's going to ask me about Jim Latour and I'm like, who's Jim Latour? Like, well, he's, all you need is that one gap in information. So it's, I'm following the Supreme Court case. I'm obviously following all the COVID stuff. I'm following the comments about Fauci. I'm following Obama. It's like homework every day. It's this immense amount of homework to keep up with. And then, things of the people that are around him, what's actually going on at the White House. You've got 3 people who are testing positive. So what's his perception of that? Like, how's he, and I can see from when he talks about it, well, she tested positive, she tested negative yesterday and today she's positive. So that's why these tests don't work. One day it's negative and the next day it's positive. So I don't know why everybody wants to take these tests. Okay.
And I mean, same as last time, I don't want to get too political in a discussion.
Right.
I mean, I'm a Canadian. What do I know about American politics? I'm just up here eating my butter tarts and my all dressed chips. And, I mean, being a Canadian right now, north of the US is almost kind of like, it's almost kind of like having the nice apartment upstairs from the meth lab, if that makes any sense right now.
That's a line that I have when I do Trump about Canada.
Really?
Because I always say, I love Canada. I love Canada. It's like another country up there. And what are Canadians really? They're just unarmed Americans with health care and a nicer attitude. That's it. I consider Canada America's attic. You don't go up there a lot, but when you do, you're like, wow, look at all this great stuff. I didn't even know this was here.
Right now, with what's going on and all the COVID stuff and everything that's been happening, is Trump still just the comedy gift that keeps on giving for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, he is. One of the things about Trump is the people who are I'm getting both sides through Cameo. Like, my dad loves Trump. He's a huge Trumper. He loves it. And then it's like, my mom hates Trump. Can do a funny message. So you get both sides. But right now he is, and I don't think there'll be ever another president, celebrity, news, like this guy is it. I mean, he is sucking the oxygen out of American life. He is in all corners. I mean, he is airtight as far as where he is on the news, in comedy, in Netflix projects that are coming up. I mean, the only person who's challenged him in the last few months is, Joe Exotic. Who even got close. The only one who got even remotely close was Joe Exotic.
It's funny how true that is, quite honestly. You're keeping busy through all this pandemic craziness, obviously. I mean, you're not out performing per se, but you've got a ton of of stuff that you're able to do from home?
My days are pretty much, I was up at 5:30 this morning. I was in makeup by 9 o'clock, and I've been shooting. When I get off of here, I'll be shooting till I will try to get everything done. At this point, I have 13 of these to shoot. So that's a lot. And then I have some offline videos for some clients.
So again, you're doing okay. You're keeping busy.
Yeah. I'm very, and I want to just say, if anyone's listening, this is an anomaly in the sense that I'm very lucky to be working, but I had the infrastructure kind of in place. Luckily, I was on Cameo back in October. So when everyone kind of moved there, to not just performers, but people looking for a gift, I was already there. I was already established. I already had a lot of great reviews. I also have the TV studio, which made it possible, and the audio studio. I know a lot of people a lot of comedians and singers, and everybody's kind of just had to run to set something up quickly. So I was very lucky that I just didn't miss a step. Which is a wonderful thing. It's kind of like Trump, it's right place, right time. So this was right place, horrible situation, but I was able to adapt pretty quickly. So, and I feel my heart goes out to everyone I know in Las Vegas. The bedrock of this town is its citizens, and the citizens are all tied to hospitality, gaming, and tourism. And we're not New York. We're not Los Angeles. We're not Chicago. The lifeblood is pretty much one thing. You've got companies like Zappos and things like that, but they employ a tiny fraction of the people. What employs the overwhelming majority of the people here is hotels, casinos, restaurants, comedy clubs, strip clubs, event centers, whatever it is. But we need an audience for that, and we need people coming here for that, and they need to feel safe when they come here, that they're not going to get sick.
John, thank you again for jumping on here today and having a chat with me.
My pleasure.
I can't wait to get back down to Vegas and spend some time with all you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we're going to be able to do that soon, my friend.
Well, it's a very resilient town. Everybody wants to get back on track. We just need the health infrastructure to do it, that people feel comfortable doing it, and that we feel comfortable going out and, not infecting each other and not infecting tourists. And they're going to figure it out. There's just too much at stake here. There's too much at stake, So I won't be surprised if there's a joint thing between MGM, Caesars, all these organizations who figure something out. Because obviously it's going to be private companies that do it.
John, thank you again. Appreciate it, my friend.
Jeff, tremendous interview. More high ratings for you.
If you want to follow John on social media, find him on Facebook at John D. Domenico Comedy, or on Instagram and Twitter at Johnny D23. And if you'd like Donald Trump, Dr. Evil, Austin Powers, Dr. Phil, Guy Fieri, or any of John's many other characters to send a special message to someone you know, book John on Cameo at cameo.com/JohnnyD23. You'll be able to find all these links in the show notes on the website. And that wraps up yet another episode of the podcast. If you've got feedback on this episode of the show, or any other episode for that matter, or you've got suggestions and ideas for topics you'd like me to cover on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to me via Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Jeff Does Vegas. You can also drop me an email directly at jeff@jeffdoesvegas.com. In the meantime, thank you so much for checking out the show. Be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts, so you'll know the moment new episodes are available. And don't forget to visit jeffdoesvegas.com for past episodes, show notes, and a link to the official Jeff Does Vegas YouTube channel. My name is Jeff, and this has been episode number 64 of the Jeff Does Vegas podcast.